Hi Naomi, how are you today?
Hi, Kiran. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I'm very excited. We've been trying to get this book chat done for a while now, so I'm very, very excited. Welcome to the Women Ed Book Club. It is absolutely wonderful to have you on talking about some of your books today. Right,
Thank you
Naomi,
so much.
you're very welcome. You will be new to many of our community, so I'm going to read out a little bit about you. And I can say for the few times that I've met you, this has absolutely been true to me as well. One of the things that you said when we were part of the GEWE network is your network is your net worth. And that is just, I think that stayed with a lot of people. And also this, what you've said as well. So about Naomi Praise. So Naomi, I met through the UK UN Women group through the GWE network. And the way that this lady is being described, I will share. She has a great heart and passion for young people and womanhood with a purpose on earth to not just simply exist, but exist to impact. She's fulfilling this through her ministry, business, and humanitarian works. And I could go on, but I want you to introduce yourself a bit as well. So today we're going to talk about two of your books, When Amiga Wins and Echoes of Ehad. So Naomi, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit further and then we'll start talking about your books?
Thank you so much, Kiran. I would love to. My name is Naomi Praise Kabasele, and I'm a married woman to Dr. Leon Kabasele, and I'm also a mother of two beautiful children. And I'm an author, a public speaker, mentor, life coach. So I do work with women and youth. So I help them build a winning mindset in order to exist to impact positively. So I also sing, so I'm a songwriter as well. And I do quite a lot of things because I'm more about social impact, empowering women and young people all around the world, especially in our nation in the UK. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Brilliant. And we got together in terms of this book club because you shared that you are writing a new book at the GWE network, which we won't talk about yet because we'll do another book club with you. And Naomi will be writing a blog for Women Ed as well, so I'm excited about that. But the two that we're going to talk about today are very much centered around education, but the first one definitely being about your experiences around education and growing up, which is When Amiga Wins. But then what we thought would be lovely is sort of linking in your children's book that you've written as well, because it's almost like the hopeful ending of your story is what was the catalyst of this children's story. So yeah, really excited to hear about number one, When Amiga Wins. Can you share a bit about the journey that got you to write this book?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you for asking that. So the journey that led me to write this book is through life experiences when I was growing up, and I realized that the life that I was living wasn't a life that every child would normally live. Although we come from different homes, we come from different backgrounds, different ethnetics and stuff like that. We all have ways that we can live. So everybody has one particular way of living. There's one thing that we call normal. So if I would put it like that, when I was growing up, I experienced so many things that I never thought I would experience. At first, I thought it was normal, as a child growing up, I thought it was normal. I thought it was just discipline, like how parents discipline their children. But I didn't realize that it was actually abnormal. It was not normal for a child to go through what I was going through. So what I'm trying to speak about is abuse and bullying. So I was going through abuse, neglect, bullying, maltreatment in the home that I was growing up in school, and in the community. So it first started at home. Like I always say, bullying always starts at home. And mental health starts at home as well. The reason why I say that, because I started to develop, mental health issues at home. at home, and then it like literally became very worse when I came outside of the house. That is including school. So growing up, I was being physically abused. So when I mean physically abused, I was being beaten to getting scars, you know, and even if you look at my forehead, if I remove my little nice fringe here, you will see that I have a little mark there. It is like a lump there, you know. It is the time that I was beaten, like my guardian. So one of my uncles that I was living with here, you know, beat me up to the point, literally lifted me up from my neck here and took my head and banged it on the wall. And at the time, because they were always beating us, you know, I didn't feel the pain at that very moment. Like it literally became like a habit, like a normal thing for us. We thought, you know, it was just a parent or a guardian discipline a child and stuff, but I didn't know that it was very abnormal. It wasn't normal at all. And I had no one to speak to about those things, about the sufferings that I was going through in the house, you know, the silent treatment, the neglect, and all these emotional abuse. So I was never hearing the word, I love you. I wasn't hearing the word, well done in the house. It was really difficult. You see, when a child in school gets a homework to do at home and they actually do well with their homework, what you would expect a parent to do is to say, oh, well done, you did extremely well. Like all these positive compliments, you know, positive affirmations towards your child. I wasn't getting that. And bear in mind, I was growing up in an African home, a pure African home, African household. So those things, you know, they weren't really expressing it to us. So what happened was, as I grew up, I began to socialize with friends in school, but it was still difficult for me to socialize in school because then I grew up with fear. What I was taught as a child to live in fear. I wasn't taught as a child to live in freedom. I was taught as a child to live in fear. I was taught to be silent. I wasn't told to be vocal about my feelings. I wasn't told to speak up when things were going wrong. I was told to shut my mouth. I was told not to say anything. I was told not to speak up. So that's how I grew up. You can imagine the kind of mentality that I had. So even when I was suffering, things were eating me up inside. I couldn't speak up. I couldn't tell anyone because I was scared. You know, my guardian literally threatened me and said, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. So if you say anything to anybody of how they're maltreating you in the house, you are going to get even more maltreatment. They will beat you up even more. They'll be slapping you, you know, just literally abusing you physically. And I was going through more of physical and emotional abuse until it developed into mental health abuse and also spiritual abuse. You know, as a faith-based person in the UK, I'm a Christian. So we believe that when people are going through hardships, when people are being maltreated, it can also affect your spirituality. So you may not be able to pray properly. You may not be able to be kind to people and stuff like that. So that was what was affecting me. I was going through depression, anxiety, growing up. And bear in mind, I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't know what it was until I began to study it, until I went into health and social care course. I did it in college. I studied it because it also includes mental health and like people's mindset and stuff like that. And then I continued to do health and social care in university. And then I learned quite a lot of things and it really opened my mind. You know, it really made me understand that I can actually use my voice. I can actually speak up. And then when I went met my husband, you know, as I've always loved to write books, but I didn't have the people that could help me to write the books. So I was getting bullied in school. I was getting bullied at home. Like I said in the beginning, bullying starts at home. Mental health issues starts at home. If you don't deal with it at home, it's going to affect you outside. If you don't fight against it at home, it's going to fight against you outside. And that was what was happening to me. Not because I didn't want to get help, it's because I was deprived from getting help even outside. No one was helping me. I had no support system. I had no one to listen to me. You know, sometimes I wish that the community that I have now, the community that I have personally built for other people, and like people like women and young people, I wish I had that community when I was a young child, you know, but I didn't have that. So that was also something that I was struggling with. I was lonely. I was isolated even in school. And that led to me being affected in my education. So I was failing my exams, such as GCSE. I didn't get a good grade in maths. And one of my subjects that I didn't really like, that I wasn't really good at, was maths. But I was good at other subjects. I was good at English. I was good at art. I was good at music. I was good at science and stuff. So those are the areas that was at least giving me that hope. It was giving me that hope that I'm smart. Because at some point, I thought that I wasn't smart. I thought I was a dumb girl. I thought there was nothing in my brain. I thought I couldn't get any good grades. Why? Because I was growing up in a toxic environment that was always emotionally abusing me. You know, they would call you stupid, you are dumb, you will amount to nothing, you will not do anything. And this was coming from a woman like me. You know, this was coming from women in my community like me. Some of them don't even go to school, but I went to school. Some of them don't even have a voice, but I was trying to also discover my voice at the time. So whenever I was speaking up, you know, trying to find help, you know, trying to seek professional help and stuff like that, they were all against, like all of them were all against me. So I was taught at home never to associate myself or to reach out to professionals, never to call the police when you're in danger, never to cry out to anybody, or else they will take your tears for granted. You know, they were always showing me that your tears is your weakness. So never allow people see your tears. But when I grew up and I became mature and I gained wisdom and understanding of the way of life and the power of your voice, I began to also show my tears. Showing my tears was a way of therapy for me. I was taught that therapy was bad. I was taught that counseling was bad, just because I grew up with people who lacked knowledge in those kind of areas such as mental health, you know, and also knowing how young people operate. There's a way that you can communicate with an adult, but there's also a way that you can communicate with a young person for them to understand. And that was the problem that the people that I thought, so the adults that were around me, had. That's what led me to also write my book. The person that also encouraged me to write my book was my husband. You know, he's also an author of more than 13 books. He literally said to me, look, my wife, if you don't write this book, no one else will write it for you. If you don't write this book, you will not heal from all these trauma, because everything that I went through, it built into a trauma. And I just want to outline something. You see, trauma doesn't exactly go out of us. We go through complex trauma, acute trauma. You know, it doesn't literally go out of us. When you understand that you have trauma, it now gives you, you know, a way to how to deal with your trauma. And that's what I've learned. We don't completely erase our traumas. Your trauma won't go, like it will not go. It will be there because it's a life experience. It's your past. You cannot change your past, but you can change your present. You can change your future. You know, you cannot change the bad things that went that was happening in your life, but you can change the way you deal with it presently so that your future will be better and brighter. And that's what I've learned. So I wrote this book, When Omega Wins, to teach women and young people, and also the African community and the BAME community, which is the people of color, on how to parent, how to treat, your children, how to communicate with your children, how to understand yourself as a parent. Probably you have to deal with your demons, like you have to deal with the trauma, the pain that you went through, meaning that you've got to break that cycle, that generational cycle. Whatever you went through in the past, the trauma that you went through in the past, don't allow your children to go through the same trauma. You have to fight to win over those traumas by going through therapy, and by doing meditation, like praying and stuff like that. Those are the things that helped me overcome, the pains, and all the negative effects that trauma have on you as a person and on your mind as well. So I wrote When Omega Wins, and inside of that, I share my experience. I've poured out my heart, and I've really tried to teach young people how to better their lives. Your past does not determine your future. And I always say that a shut mouth is a shut destiny. My destiny was shut in the past when I was growing up as a child, and also up to like my teenage years. My destiny was shut. Why? Because I was silent. Not because I didn't want to speak. I was very vocal, like my natural self. I'm a person that likes to speak up. Like, I like to talk. I talk a lot. But then it was all shut down. It was all hidden because of the environment that I was in, the type of environment that I was in, the type of people that I was surrounded by. It was toxic, and I was living under their shelter. So there's nothing for me to do at the time. I was obeying them. I was a child in their eyes. So there was nothing else I can do. But I had a mentor in school that I would always go to every time I was feeling like really sad, depressed, and anxiety and stuff like that. Every time I would get bullied in school, I would run to him. And he was always there for me, advising me. And that's how I learned to recover my voice. That's how I learned to speak up. That's how I was taught that when you have a problem, you've got to speak up. You've got to find somebody that you trust, somebody that will not judge you, somebody that will just be there to simply listen. Simply listen. Sometimes somebody doesn't need a lecture. The person needs a hug. And that's what I needed in my childhood. I didn't get a hug. So now what I do, every opportunity that I get to meet young people, to meet women who are silenced, who are abused, every opportunity I get to see them, I hug them like my own. I give them the biggest hugs. And I tell them, listen, it's going to be okay. If I overcame it, I went through it and I overcame it, I'm sure you can do that as well. So then I wrote my children's book, which is called Echoes of Ehad. Ehad, in the Hebrew language, Hebrew word means unity. So Echoes of Unity. In that book, I teach young people, children, about unity, how to practice unity in every area of their lives. And there's also images inside the book that is going to empower young people and children. And within When Omega Wins, there are also images of myself, raw images about me. So if you want to discover me more, that's the book that would literally tell you more about the author. So that is a bit about, what I went through. Everything else is in the books that I've written, especially on When Omega Wins. And Echoes of Ehad describes a lot more about unity. And I have a particular activity for the young people and children inside the book that is going to help them also understand how to use unity. Because what I understood, that in this generation, we have access to get help. But in the past, during the time of our ancestors, our grandmas, our granddads, they didn't really have access into getting help, especially when it came to mental health. At the time, mental health didn't even exist. Well, it was probably there, but there was lack of knowledge. during the time. So people were not living in unity. I could speak of the government, you know, I could speak of families. There was no unity. There was always war, and people always fighting each other and stuff like that. So because of where I have come from, because of my personal experience, I've decided to use my personal experience to also teach these young people that unity is important. Unity will make everything work. You know, without unity, you cannot do anything with anyone. So that's a bit about the two books.
Thank you, Naomi. I think it was really good just listening to you, because I think you've given sort of like an overall understanding of what people will sort of, I mean, it's your lived experience, isn't it? But lived experience in the rawest sense. But do you feel, so like basing it on your husband's advice, do you feel that part of you has healed in terms of being able to move forward with this story? Because it's one of the things that, it's Brené Brown, I'm sure it is. She talks about you can either be owned by your story or you can own your story. And part of owning your story is sharing it, because if you keep it hidden, then it's a part of you that you're not allowing to heal. Would you, do you think the book was the starting of that healing, or was it before the book that you started to heal to then be able to write it? Because there's, what you're telling us is there's a lot of pain, a lot of vulnerability. And also, I mean, have, you know, has your family read the book since you've written it as well? Has there been healing in that sense, in that relationship?
Thank you so much for your question, Karan. My family, only one person or two people in my family has read my book, but the rest of them, I don't know if they've read it, because they don't tell me anything if they've read it or not. And the people that are included, you know, in my story, I don't know if they've read it. That one I don't really know, but I can tell the guilt in their faces when I released this book. So they knew that, we are in trouble. But I don't know if they've read it or not. And I would say that that book was also a start of my therapy, a start of my healing. When I first of all actually met my husband, he actually helped me to start my healing journey. And then when I began to write that book in 2019, then I realized that, I wasn't actually healed like I thought I was healed. Because when you're writing a book, it's your entire emotions that needs to be shown in the book. It's like you're releasing some kind of hormones out. It's like you are releasing certain things out of your body. And that's how I felt. You know, I felt so much healing. I felt like my book was a therapy for me. And knowing that I can open up and just put everything in that book, you know, it really helped me to understand that, okay, this is my healing journey now. So writing that book, and the start of writing that book, I could literally say that that was fully on my healing journey. That's how I knew that, you know, I'm, you know, healing inside, because I learned how to forgive all those people that hurt me in the past. And even when I approach them now, if I see them somewhere, you know, within the community, I'm the one that goes to say hello to them. They are the one that actually runs away from me, and they're like, we don't want to talk to her. But then I go and approach them, because I know that I'm living in freedom. You know, I don't have any guilt. I don't have any revenge in me. I don't have any resentment, any guilt inside of me, any grudges. Because why? I poured it all out in that book, When Omega Wins. It is done. Because I know that if I don't forgive these people, I'm hurting myself. Forgiveness is basically you. Like, you are doing it for yourself so that you can advance. So if you don't forgive, you know, you are blocking your own blessings. You are stopping yourself from going forward. So I believe that writing that book was healing for me. It was healing, and it was an actual therapy. I would say it is better than going to a counselor. I know that I'm a coach myself, and I also studied counseling, but I feel like when one is able to write their story down on paper with a pen, I believe that there is more that comes out. There's more healing that takes place when you're actually doing it yourself personally. You know the components that needs help. You know how to release it yourself. And that's what happened to me. When I was writing that book, I had tears. Tears was literally dropping on my manuscript. I was crying and I said, God, if this is the way that you are helping me to heal, then I want this way. You know, especially when it gets to the part where you were being abused, like the worst scenarios of my life. I cried and I cried and I cried. And I was like, you know, it's
It
good
was
that
a
I did this.
release, wasn't it? It was, yeah, it sounds like it was you
A
let it
massive
go.
relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Massive relief. Yeah.
I think one thing that's come to mind, and we've done a few, there was one recently that we did on the book club about the importance of journaling. And it's almost that, isn't it? It's that free writing, it's that element of just letting it go and releasing it on the page. And is that something you would suggest to do? I mean, thinking about mental well-being and that sort of. And the other thing that you said about, I think more people are more aware of their mental health. I think physical health it's there, you can see it, whereas mental health, and there was quite a taboo with it as well for a very long time. Do you feel because you are a role model in many ways, like especially with how you've shared your story, would you say that you have probably broken that? Because, there's cultural nuances with things like mental health as well. Do you feel that you've helped break that taboo around mental health and ways of dealing with it through, writing a story or through journaling? Has that helped the young women around you in your community?
Yes, yes, definitely. I have a few testimonies from women that's read my book as well. And most of the time, the way I do help women and young people is to write my stories on my social media. You know, I share different kind of topics. And I think journaling is also important. So if you are somebody that struggles with your feelings to express yourself, it's best to buy a notepad and start journaling. You know, it doesn't have to be every day, but when you're struggling to put down your feelings into words, start journaling. It really helps. It really helps. And also, I've seen women who's read my book and who's heard my story, and they've been impacted positively because one of my job is to help you build a winning mindset and to exist, to impact positively. And that's what I've been seeing with a lot of women. They are now being able to speak up now, and they're able to share their stories when they're hearing mine. And I also advise them to start journaling. I also advise them to open up to the right people. So I think journaling is very important. It's one of the activities that will help in maintaining a very positive mental health status, even for the people of color, especially. I do have a new community that I've built. It's called Renewal of Your Mind, and that is to help the people of color to be aware, you know, of their mental health, and to understand that they can access mental health and it's not a taboo. Because I've been able to actually break that stigma from the little time that I've been living and the little experience that I have. I've been seeing people break that stigma of mental health in the BAME community, especially in the Black community. Mental health is not really taken seriously. Mental health, for them, they think that somebody who has mental health, the person is crazy, you know, the person is mad and they deserve to be in the hospital, mental health hospital. But it's not always the case. People go through mental health issues every day. Stress is part of mental health issues, and we go through it. It's just about knowing how to manage it. And journaling, it's one of the things that will help you to ease the stress as well. And having a community would also help you to ease the stress. Connecting with like-minded people will also help you in terms of managing your mental health. And also creating boundaries will also help you to manage your mental health. Learning to say yes and no, you know, when it's needed, is going to help you manage your mental health status. I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, you definitely, yeah, definitely. Right, we're coming to the end now, but I did want to just go back to Echoes of Ehad because you've talked about it being a story about unity. Forgive me. The thing that's come through really strongly with you sharing your story as well is that there's unity within yourself. And I don't think that's spoken enough about because I think in order for you to unify with other people, you have to know yourself really, really well. And like you've just said about having boundaries, about, knowing what's right for you, knowing what isn't going to work for you. And that starts as like I believe as early as possible because it's you growing into who you're going to become. What sort of advice I don't want you to give too much away about your children's book, but is there, like, any golden nuggets of advice that you'd be able to share with children, maybe starting, secondary school or starting a new school, just like a new part of their journey, if we were to share this in September? Like, when we're talking about unity, as well as, like, unifying with others, how do you feel that sense within yourself?
Okay, thank you for that question, Karan. I think, first of all, for every young person that's going to be listening to this, the advice that I'm going to give as you're stepping into a new academic year, so in September, I would advise you to accept yourself first. Like when I'm saying accept yourself, it means accept your flaws, accept the positive and the negative, and just begin to build on it slowly, slowly. Get to know yourself, discover your weaknesses, discover your strengths. And one thing that I will also say is learn to discover your weaknesses. Okay, I know people say, oh yeah, you need to know your strengths. That's very important. But one thing that I've learned is that it's more better to know your weakness than to know your strength. Why? Because once you know your weakness, you'll be able to know how to work on those weaknesses so that it can then become your strength. So focus on working on your weaknesses, and also like I say, you've got to start unifying with yourself. So build that unity within yourself. When I'm saying build that unity within yourself, it means loving yourself more, loving you first before you love others. Meaning, when you are in school, make sure that you love yourself so much that people will be like, why does she always love herself so much? Why does he always love himself so much? Like people will see that confidence in you, because when you are in unity with yourself, it shows confidence. First impressions matters very much. And you can only do that when you are in unity with yourself. A lot of young people are not in unity with themselves. That's why they are getting into so much issues in school, bullying and stuff like that. I would say when I was also a child, I think I wasn't in unity with myself because I was battling with a lot of things, like the battle of the mind. So what I would advise you, um, you've got to build that unity with yourself, build that relationship with yourself. Like, get to know you, get to know how you operate, get to know how you communicate, get to know what's best for you. And then you can be able to perform very well and in school as well. So I think that's what I would advise every young person starting academic year.
Naomi, thank you so much. It has been wonderful listening to you, but also talking to you as well. Um, I'm going to ask you here as well that you're going to make sure that you do that Women in blog for us, because I think more people need to know about all of your books. I genuinely say that. But just thank you so much for your time today, and I'm just so glad that I've got you on the book club. So thank you, Naomi.
Thank you so much, Karan, for having me. It was a pleasure.